Welcome to How to Increase Pleasure and Organic Intelligence. I'm Dr. Bok Ho. To the slide, one slide for this lecture. The title is, I'm sorry. The title is To Increase Pleasure, 3 items. Do things that give you pleasure. Number 2, pay attention to pleasure. Number 3, use attention to build pleasure. I'm going to talk through number 1 and 2 together. Do things that, excuse me, that give you pleasure and pay attention to pleasure. If pursuing pleasure is not a realistic option for you, your suffering is too high, or you can't feel pleasure, or you don't have time, energy, or motivation to pursue pleasure. For example, between work, your people, and just surviving, nothing left to spare. Or pursuing pleasure, at least some pleasures, will create too much pain, social anxiety, shame, discomfort with your body, discomfort with asking for what you want, or fear of pleasure, disinterest in pleasure, aversion to pleasure, fear of happiness, disinterest in happiness, aversion to happiness, or some or all of the above. Then one option is not to try to increase pleasure until and unless something shifts in life. And I mean that as a serious option. Maybe the least bothersome thing to do is just keep doing what you're doing until and unless something shifts. If you're curious about the possibility of increasing pleasure when you're in one or more of the preceding situations, some of my videos to check out are what to do about your suffering, how to practice orientation, how to practice pleasure, how to practice pain, and how to practice neutral. If you don't know what to do because you don't know what will give you pleasure, do I play on my phone? Do I go for a walk? Do I listen to music, etc.? Then maybe just focus on paying attention to pleasure, any hint of pleasure, interest, or curiosity as you do whatever you do habitually. Paying attention to pleasure will build up over time access to, I like this, I like that, I want to do this, I want to do that. Now, if you're in a place where you can pursue pleasure and pay attention to the pleasure, do it. Do things that give you pleasure and pay attention to the pleasure. You get pleasure from, say, your job, at least certain aspects of your job, from eating, exercising, video games, sexual activity, solo or with partners, reading, gardening, socializing, etc. Do these things and pay attention to the pleasure in them. By pay attention to the pleasure in them, I mean noticing and feeling into the pleasure more than you would when you're on autopilot, living habitually. So you're doing work that you enjoy in a habitual way, you get pleasure from it. And can you increase the pleasure by paying more attention to the pleasure you experience? Maybe you feel pleasure in certain parts of your body and you pay more attention to that pleasure than you normally would. Maybe normally you'd never pay attention to the pleasure. Paying attention to pleasure can be tricky because Doing anything non-habitual takes up attentional bandwidth, and using up more attention on pleasure may interfere with what you're doing that gives you pleasure. You're doing work you enjoy. Say it's social, you're interacting with people. Paying more attention to the pleasure you feel might detract from your ability to work, to pay attention to what people are saying and respond, thus sabotaging your pleasure. It's tricky, but can you do it? Whatever you're doing that gives you pleasure, can you pay more attention to pleasure while continuing doing what gives you pleasure? Especially notice unexpected pleasure. This can indicate you're building capacity for pleasure. When you start paying attention to pleasure, you may find there's a lot of unexpected pleasure, which makes sense because you're paying attention where you haven't paid attention before. As you work, you feel pleasure in your face. You pay attention to it. Then pleasure emerges in your torso. You pay attention to it. Then pleasurable thoughts come up. I like this part of my job, and you get pleasure from that thought. Then later you notice a tree. You've seen that tree 1,000 times, but suddenly now, when you look at it, you feel more pleasure. And the better you get at paying attention to pleasure, the better you get at noticing moments of pleasure and pain reduction when doing things you don't enjoy, or during times when your norm is non-enjoyment. So that's numbers 1 and 2 together. Do things that give you pleasure and pay attention to pleasure. Number 3, use attention to build pleasure. By building pleasure, I mean increasing its duration, intensity, and presence throughout your organism and conscious experience. You're lying in bed. A thought comes up. The sun is setting. The thought stays in your mind longer than you expected. It started out neutral. Then, as you pay attention to it, it starts becoming more pleasant, interesting. The sun is setting. You pay attention to the pleasurable thought. Then you look out the window at the night sky. The sun set hours ago. Looking at the night sky is pleasant. You pay attention to the pleasure of looking at the night sky, and you still have the thought, the sun is setting, and it's still pleasurable, and you pay attention to this too. Then an image emerges. It's an image of lasagna. It's neutral at first, and then becomes pleasant. You pay attention to the image, and it becomes more pleasant. You still have the thought, the sun is setting, and it's still pleasurable. And you're still looking at the night sky, and that's still pleasurable. And you pay attention to these while paying attention to the image. More pleasure. Maybe more thoughts and images come up, sun-related, night-related, lasagna-related, or other things, and are pleasant, and you pay attention to them. More pleasure. Then you notice pleasant feeling. Is it somewhere specific in your body or more all over? You're not sure. Is it more of an emotion or a physical feeling? You're not sure, but it's pleasurable. You pay attention to the pleasant feeling, and along with pleasant thoughts, images, and orientation. Then you notice pleasurable feeling in a certain part of your body, say both arms. You pay attention to the pleasure in the arms. Then the pleasure starts spreading throughout your whole body. You feel it throughout your whole body, and you pay attention to this. Then all this pleasure increases in your conscious experience, filling it up. Let's say earlier, when the thought, the sun is setting, came up, your attention was preoccupied, say, with whether to sell your crypto and cry, or do I cry first and then sell my crypto? And this preoccupation was unpleasant or neutral. Then the thought, the sun is setting, came up, started as neutral, and then as you paid attention to it, it became pleasant, and so on, then with the building of the pleasure in orientation to the night sky, image, more pleasant thoughts and images, then feelings all over in specific body parts and spreading throughout the body. As this building process happened, less and less of your attention was on, do I sell my crypto and cry? And more on the increasing pleasure, which now fills up your whole conscious experience. Then suppose, do I sell my crypto thoughts emerge again, and now they're pleasant, whereas before they were unpleasant or neutral. And you pay attention to these pleasant thoughts and incorporate them into the critical mass of pleasure your attention has been building up. So you practice using attention to build pleasure in thoughts, images, orientation, and feelings, increasing the duration of pleasure, its intensity, and presence throughout your organism and conscious experience. Thank you.